One reckless night with someone else cost me my husband when he walked in on us.
Hey Reddit, I'm Haley, and I've got a story to share that I never thought I'd tell anyone. I honestly never thought I'd be here posting, but I guess life can be surprising. I've made a terrible mistake, one that has turned my world upside down and shattered everything I thought I knew about myself and my marriage. My husband, Chris, has made it clear that there's no way he'll ever forgive me, and I genuinely don't know what to do. I'm hoping to get some helpful advice from the Reddit community. My name is Haley, and I'm 32 years old. Chris, my husband, is 30. We have a 5-year-old son. We met at my cousin's birthday party way back in college, and we instantly clicked. After exchanging numbers, we went on a date, and the rest is history. I've always loved Chris, and our relationship has been great. He's the kind of person who sacrifices for others, believing in helping and doing what's right. At first, he took care of the bills while I stayed home with our son. It was an arrangement we agreed on before marriage. Chris has a demanding job, and he often works late nights for weeks on end. As time passed, Chris's demanding job really started to get to me, and it took a toll on us. I found myself spending more and more evenings alone, dealing with our son and the daily grind. While I understood why Chris had to work so hard, it left me feeling incredibly lonely. Our conversations became short and to the point, and I missed those deep talks and moments of laughter we used to share. Those late nights he spent at work were like lonely stretches of time. Our conversations became more about practical stuff and less about us. It felt like we were drifting apart, slowly but surely. It felt like our spark was fading, and I was desperate for some excitement, something to break the monotony. It was like I was searching for a missing piece, trying to find a way to feel alive again amidst the routine. The loneliness started to eat at me. I wanted someone to talk to, someone who understood. I'd scroll through social media, seeing others' seemingly perfect lives, and wonder where our spark had gone. Trying to fill that emptiness just made it worse. I began to question if this was all life had in store for us. Was this quiet, empty feeling the price of stability? I felt torn between wanting to talk to Chris and feeling guilty about it. I knew he took on this demanding job for us, to give us a better life. In his previous job, things were okay, and he had more time for us. But after our son was born, expenses piled up for us. Plus, I wanted a better place to live, a house I felt we could truly call home. Chris knew how much moving meant to me. He worked tirelessly, sacrificing his time and energy to secure this new job with better pay. It was a dream come true in many ways. We could afford a house and provide more for our family, but that also meant he was busier than ever. His dedication to our son, however, was amazing. It was something I admired. Chris adored our little one, and he cherished every moment with him. But I couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy at times because I realized I wasn't getting that same level of attention. He would cancel plans to be with our son, but not for me. I wanted to talk to him about this, about how I felt sidelined in our marriage. But every time I thought about it, guilt washed over me. Chris had worked so hard for us, and here I was, wanting more. I realized I needed something to keep me occupied, even if just a little. Our son was growing up, already in kindergarten, so there wasn't as much need for me to be at home all the time. That's when I brought up the idea of getting a job to Chris. He was understandably surprised because I had never been keen on working outside before. I always enjoyed being a stay-at-home mom, aside from the loneliness that crept in. When Chris asked why I wanted to work, I didn't tell him the whole truth. I couldn't bring myself to say that it was because I felt isolated and lonely at home. Instead, I mentioned feeling a bit bored and thought it would be a good change. He was supportive, as always. Chris reassured me that I didn't need to work, and he wouldn't expect me to contribute to the bills. He insisted that he would continue covering all the expenses. He even suggested that I could use my paycheck for myself, to buy things I wanted or treat myself. His words made me genuinely happy. It meant I could keep the money I earned, a little independence in the financial aspect. It was very comforting to know that I could have a bit of financial freedom while still being taken care of by Chris. Getting a job didn't take me long. The pay wasn't extravagant, but it was decent, and the hours were manageable. What really sold me was the flexibility it offered. After a successful interview, I was given a start date, and that's how my journey in the workforce began. The first few weeks were a bit exciting, but way more exhausting. It was a new experience for me, and I'll admit I wasn't particularly fond of it at first. However, it kept me busy and distracted from my feelings of loneliness. Despite the challenges, the job's flexibility allowed me to balance my time between work, spending quality moments with my son, and managing household chores. Adjusting to this new routine wasn't easy, but I was determined to make it work. I met Tina at work, and from the start, she was incredibly friendly and welcoming. She quickly became a significant part of my life. We hit it off immediately, and we quickly bonded over our shared experiences and interests. She had this friendly and outgoing personality that drew people in, and I was no exception. In a workplace where I was still finding my footing, her warmth and helpfulness were like a lifeline. I was very grateful for her companionship, especially since I didn't have many friends. Loneliness had been a constant companion, and Tina's warmth felt like a ray of sunshine in my life. At first, I didn't notice anything off about Tina. Sure, there were moments when I sensed something wasn't quite right, but her kindness overshadowed any doubts I had. Besides, I was so starved for genuine connections that I welcomed her into my circle without hesitation. I had always struggled to make friends, even back in school. It felt like I was always on the outside. I never quite fit in with the crowds, and that loneliness followed me into adulthood. Loneliness had been a constant companion for me, even before Tina entered the picture. Growing up, I struggled to connect with others, both at school and within my own family. I wasn't particularly close to my relatives, and while they cared for me, we never had that deep bond that some families seem to effortlessly possess. As for friendships, like I've said before, they were always elusive. I never seemed to fit into any group, always feeling like an outsider looking in. This lack of connection left a void in my life, one that I tried to fill with activities and distractions but never quite succeeded. When I met Chris, everything changed. He wasn't just my husband, he was my best friend. We shared our hopes, dreams, and fears with each other, creating a strong bond built on trust and understanding. He was the one person I could rely on, the one constant in a world that often felt uncertain. But even with Chris by my side, there were moments of loneliness that crept in. His demanding job kept him away for long hours, and that meant I had to go through those quiet hours alone. It was during those times that I felt extra lonely, especially if our son wasn't home. I always felt that I wouldn't have been this lonely if I had some friends. So when Tina reached out and showed genuine interest in being my friend, I was excited and welcomed her with open arms. It had been a long time since someone had taken an interest in me, and I was eager to embrace this newfound companionship. Back then, I didn't know then that our friendship would lead me down a path of mistakes and regrets. Tina quickly became my go-to buddy. She was outgoing, fun, and seemed to know how to have a blast. We hit it off right away, sharing stories and bonding over life's ups and downs. Honestly, I probably trusted Tina a bit too fast. She spilled her guts about everything, and I did the same about feeling lonely and kind of empty despite my job keeping me busy. That's when she started suggesting we hit the town and have some fun. She figured if I was out and about, I wouldn't dwell on Chris being away so much. I gotta admit, her words got me thinking. I've never been big on partying or going out a ton, preferring cozy nights in. But Tina made it sound like the cure for loneliness was a bustling social life. So against my usual instincts, I decided to give it a shot, not realizing the roller coaster I was about to board. Hanging out with Tina definitely changed things for me. She had this way of pushing boundaries and making me feel like I was missing out on life's wild side. At first, it was little things like encouraging me to have one more drink or dance a bit more freely at clubs. But then it escalated. Tina had this persuasive charm about her, and before I knew it, she was planting ideas in my head that I never thought I'd entertain. She started by suggesting that being intimate with others at clubs wasn't really cheating because it was just harmless fun. It sounded enticing at the time, especially with the buzz of the nightlife around us, clouding my judgment more than usual. I guess I wanted to believe her because it felt like a temporary escape from the loneliness that was eating away at me. But looking back now, I see how twisted her influence was, and how it led me down a path I never should have taken. And even though I was a little touchy-feely with people in the club, I never went all the way to sleeping with them. It usually ended with making out. That night was the first time I actually went out with someone. That night was the one that changed everything. My husband was at work as usual, and our son was away at a sleepover for his cousin's birthday. It was just me in the house, and Tina, ever the instigator, suggested we hit the club. I was hesitant at first, I wasn't really feeling it, but Tina's a very persuasive person, and before I knew it, we were at the club, drowning our thoughts in drinks. Here's where it all went downhill. You know how alcohol can mess with your head, right? Well, it did a number on mine. It clouded my judgment and made me do things I'd never imagined myself doing. I noticed a guy who caught my eye. He was good-looking and looked younger, maybe in his early 20s. I liked him, but I didn't make any moves because deep down, I knew it was wrong. Tina, however, kept whispering in my ear that it was just a harmless fling, that it didn't count as cheating because it was in the club, and that I could blame it all on being drunk. I should have ignored her, but I didn't. I made a mistake that I deeply regret. I walked up to the guy. I was very nervous. The music was blasting, so we had to lean in close just to hear each other. We talked and flirted for a bit, and I asked if he wanted to come back to my place, and to my surprise, he agreed right away. Looking back, I can't believe I did something so impulsive. I can't even comprehend what I was thinking or what drove me to make such a reckless decision. It was like I was under some sort of spell. After agreeing with the guy, I went back to Tina to let her know. I promised to fill her in on all the details the next day. She supported me, of course. I made sure she was okay to stay longer at the club before leaving with the guy. I left the club with him. He came with his car, so he had to drive and follow me. We headed to our house, and I ignored the nagging voice in my head telling me it was a terrible idea. We immediately started having sex. Any regret I had was gone to the wind. We had sex for hours all night. It was probably the alcohol that made us go on for that long. After that, we were so tired we just crawled into bed and kind of fell asleep. I wasn't really worried about anyone barging into the house, as my husband wasn't supposed to come until the afternoon or maybe late evenings. I generally don't know which, but I knew that he was not coming in the morning. As for my son, the sleepover was only the first phase of the birthday party, and the next day was the actual party. So I knew that he would not be back until the party had ended. After we were done having sex, we kind of just flopped on the bed and fell asleep shortly after that. However, I don't think we had slept for more than an hour or two when I heard the front door slam shut. When that door slammed shut, my heart skipped a beat, and panic set in like a tidal wave. I shook the guy awake, whispering urgently that he needed to leave right away. He scrambled to gather his things and dress, while I strained to hear my husband's footsteps to gauge where he was. I was surprised he didn't even call out for me, but I guess he must have assumed I was still sleeping. I practically begged the guy to hide until my husband left the house, but he surprised me by flatly refusing. He muttered something about not knowing I was married, and how he wouldn't have gotten involved if he had known. It was a lame excuse considering the family photos scattered all over our home, but I hadn't mentioned my marital status in the heat of the moment. To him, I was just a one-night stand, nothing more. I couldn't risk my husband walking in on me naked. I hurriedly threw on some clothes, and the guy made his way downstairs. Just then, fate decided to play its hand, and my husband and the guy crossed paths on the stairs, the guy going downstairs and my husband coming up. There was a tense moment where apologies were hastily exchanged, the guy explaining he had no clue I was married, and my husband visibly shocked and upset. In the end, the guy left in a hurry. He sounded so awkward and regretful. I stepped out to face my husband. I'd started crying at this point. I knew there was no easy way out of this mess. I'd been caught red-handed. I began with the classic "I was drunk" defense, hoping against hope that it would somehow soften the blow. But Chris wasn't having any of it. He was disappointed and was still in disbelief. He told me in no uncertain terms that alcohol was no excuse for betrayal. His words cut through me like a knife. He reminded me that we had been together for years, and he knew me well enough to know that I wasn't the type to lose control when drinking. My attempt to blame it on being drunk fell flat in the face of his logic. Desperate to shift the blame, I mentioned Tina and I lied that she had forced and dared me to do it. But Chris wasn't buying that either. He called it out as a feeble attempt to deflect responsibility. He told me that I was a grown woman capable of making my own decisions. He said that I wasn't some 5-year-old and that I was definitely not brainless. He pointed out that I should have known better, that I should have thought before acting on someone else's dare, and that trying to shift the blame was even worse. He made it clear that forgiveness was off the table, that this breach of trust was unforgivable. The final blow came when he declared that our marriage was over. That was when I realized that there was no turning back. I begged and pleaded, but he was adamant. He wanted me out of the house before our son returned. He didn't want him to meet us arguing, and he said he would find something to tell him. I bawled my eyes out, begging and pleading like my life depended on it. But he was stone cold. He told me bluntly that it was over. He wasn't going to leave the house he had struggled to buy, so I had to be the one to go. He said my constant begging was only making things worse, and that he needed time away from me to think. He said that no amount of pleading or trying to reason with him would make a dent in his decision. After a few minutes of back and forth, I finally gave in and agreed to leave. I initially wanted to grab just the essentials, but he insisted I take everything. He made it clear that he had worked damn hard to provide for us, and my betrayal had wrecked everything we had built. I tried to make deals, promising to quit my job, be a full-time mom again, always share my whereabouts, cook every night, and even give up my phone and do whatever else it took to rebuild trust. But it was like talking to a brick wall. He was done with my excuses and apologies. With a heavy heart and a load of tears, I packed my stuff and walked out. It hit me hard that my actions had torn apart our marriage and the life we built together, and no amount of begging or deals could fix it. It was a tough pill to swallow, leaving our home knowing I'd wrecked everything. I found myself in a real mess, scrambling for a place to crash. First, I called up Tina, thinking she'd have my back. But boy, was I wrong. She not only turned me down, but also made me feel like it was all my fault. It hurt me a lot that someone I thought was a friend could ditch me like that, and then blame me for everything and wash her hands of any responsibility. Next, I tried my family, hoping for some warmth, but they all had excuses. No space here, too crowded there. It was like hitting a brick wall at every turn. Feeling abandoned by them stung. I know we haven't always been on good terms, but they were my own flesh and blood. I thought about my in-laws, but quickly scrapped and dropped that idea. They'd dig into why I needed shelter, and my whole mess would spill out, leading to another eviction. So there I was, checking into a motel. I had nowhere to go. I felt like reaching out to my old friends was awkward after being out of touch for ages. For the rest of that day, I poured my heart into calls and texts to my husband, begging for a response, but silence was all I got in return. Reddit, I'm at my wit's end here. Any advice or support would mean the world to me right now. Update. Hey Reddit, I knew I'd face some backlash posting this, but the amount of negativity has been overwhelming. I understand I messed up and deserve criticism, but I'm here seeking advice, not insults. Many are saying my husband may never forgive me, and while that's a possibility, I'm holding on to hope. We've built years together, and it feels crazy to consider throwing it away over one drunken mistake. Regarding Tina, yes, I've cut off contact well in a way, I guess. We work together, so it's been awkward at work, with me avoiding her and our co-workers noticing the change. I'm not entertaining questions about it. Please stop suggesting I stay with other friends or at a homeless shelter. It's not as simple as it sounds, and I'm still figuring out my housing situation at the motel for now. I feel like reconnecting with old friends just for a place to stay would have been uncomfortable. Plus, I didn't want to burden them knowing they likely wouldn't agree. And staying at a homeless shelter wasn't an option I considered. Right now, I'm still at the motel, trying to figure out my next steps in terms of housing. So on to the actual update. Not much has changed since last time. My husband and I are talking, but it's pretty limited. We've only had a couple of conversations, mostly about our son and when I can see him. Now, on to my family drama. They reached out, and let's just say they didn't hold back. They put all the blame on me, no surprise there. They said they'd take me in if they could, but they made it clear they thought I messed up big time. And as for my in-laws, they weren't any nicer. They basically said I deserved what I got and hinted they're on board with my husband's divorce plans. So yeah, it's been a real mess, with everyone pointing fingers and no one really offering any real help or understanding. Update. Hey Reddit, so it's been a while since I last updated. A lot has happened, and honestly, it's been quite overwhelming. First things first, I got served. Yep, divorce papers. It's official now. It's been weeks since everything unraveled, and I've been trying to keep myself occupied with work. Unfortunately, I still haven't managed to get that transfer I was hoping for, but I'm hanging in there. As for Tina, well, it seems like she's finally understood the gravity of the situation. She's keeping her distance now, which honestly I appreciate. It's better this way. I still see my son whenever I can, but it's not the same as before. On the family front, there hasn't been much communication after that initial confrontation. It's like they've washed their hands of the whole situation and have left me to deal with the aftermath on my own. I've had some time to reflect on everything, and I've come to accept that this chapter of my life has reached its end. Forgiveness seems like a distant dream now, and that's something I've had to make peace with. It's not easy, but I'm taking it one day at a time. Update. Hey Reddit, it's been quite some time since I last checked in here, and honestly, I never thought I'd be updating this thread again. After the overwhelming negativity I faced, I sort of retreated and tried to focus on picking up the pieces of my life. But I feel like I owe you all one final update, so here it goes. The divorce has been finalized. It was a relatively standard procedure as far as divorces go. We didn't have much to divide between us. The cars were in his name, and he was the one handling the payments all along. Similarly, the house was also in his name. That was a decision his parents pushed for back then. So I guess that worked out well for him. I started questioning if my ex-husband truly loved me because he never put anything in my name, not even the cars. I did receive some alimony, probably because I had been a stay-at-home mom for a significant period. The amount was decent and helped me get by for a few weeks, which I'm grateful for. In terms of custody, my ex-husband got custody of our son. He was ecstatic about it, and I could see how much it meant to him. It was tough for me, and I shed a few tears over it, but I know that my son has always had a strong bond with his father. This marks the end of a chapter for me. I'm sad about how things turned out, but I'm also ready to move forward. As for Reddit, I've grown to dislike this platform due to the overwhelming negativity I faced. I might even delete this account eventually. However, I wanted to express my gratitude for the solid advice I did receive amidst all the negativity. Thank you, Reddit.
Great things do come to an end. I sometimes think there's no such thing as a happy ending and forever after. What happened to talking things out and trying to fix things nowadays? Let me share my worst marriage experience ever. I got married to one of the world's most handsome, successful men. I thought, this is it. I'm officially taken and off the market. Looks like I jumped a gun on that one. Everything was perfect. The love, the gifts. He was my Prince Charming. My husband and I were a happily married couple. We had been together for several years, building a life filled with love, trust, and mutual respect. However, like any relationship, we occasionally faced challenges that tested our bond. We had our fair share of ups and downs, but what I can tell you is that my relationship, or must I say my marriage with my husband, went through a very tough time whereby one decided to kick another one out just because I wanted to feel myself again. I know I should have communicated that with my husband, but I had tried several times. His only focus was at work, and we would end up spending less time together. But today I see that you can never let a friend in your relationship. I had told my friend about my marriage problems, which I deeply regret. So me finding solace in my friend, and she suggested that we go to the club, almost ruined me and my marriage. Yes, my image and my husband's got tarnished for a few weeks, but we survived through it. We had been married for several years, and our relationship had always been stable and loving. However, our seemingly blissful life took an unexpected turn one Friday night. I had been feeling a bit suffocated by the repetition of our routine. I had craved a change of scenery and some time away from the responsibilities of married life. Was I wrong for wanting some changes in our marriage? It was like we were old people. Well, he was old since he was almost in his 40s, but I was still young, and I wanted to do what young people like me do and experience things, I shouldn't have listened to my friend. Alfred and I had been married for several years and had always enjoyed our strong and loving relationship. We were dedicated to our careers and often found solace in spending quality time together. However, as time went on, I began to feel like my personal freedom was slowly slipping away. Redditors, please tell me what I should have done if one was to find themselves in the very same situation that I was in. What were you going to do? No judgments, please, just tips and advices. I, 28, got married to Alfred Morgan, 36, owner of Morgan's Inc. He owns properties around the world and also has shares in other people's companies that are progressive. People think he is wealthy because of his surname. We are from New York City. We met at Starbucks. I was getting coffee for my terrible hangover, and here he was looking fancy in his suit. I accidentally bumped into him and spilled coffee on him. He just said, "Someone had a fun night." As I was trying to wipe off coffee from his suit, I was so embarrassed. He just looked at me and said, "It's okay, you'll have to take it to the laundry." So we went to his office where he had a spare suit. I felt like a maid, and also embarrassed as he gave me his suit and a piece of paper with his address on it. I made the delivery on the 5th floor at Trump Tower. His apartment was clean, and the view of the city, I was amazed in my mind. I was like, who's this guy? He came as I was looking at the view and offered me coffee and said, "Make sure you don't spill this one." And this is how everything started, from a good conversation to seeing each other more often. I do not know how we dated. It just happened. We went on for years until he popped the question, "Would you marry me?" I couldn't believe it. At that time, we were in Venice in Italy. This man proposed on the boat. What a dream. I said yes immediately. Who would say no? He's wealthy and successful. My life was secured. My husband and I were the perfect match. He was a loving and caring man who worked hard to provide for his family, and he was a very handsome, kind-hearted man who took care of his home and loved me, as his wife, dearly. Our wedding wasn't exclusive. We had family and friends over only. I was finally off the market and married to the most successful man. I didn't once think of the code and conduct that comes with this marriage. I literally forgot I was marrying a high-value man. Alfred respected his reputation and image. He was very strict when it comes to how you hold yourself and how you appear in public. You have to always be holding yourself up high and make sure to wear decent clothing. I respected all his rules and made sure to follow them. I didn't do that to maybe please him or whatever, but I did it because I loved my husband, and I wouldn't want to be the one to ruin his image and reputation. But to tell you the truth, as years passed, I was slowly getting bored in my marriage. I felt like I was in a cage and I was cuffed like a wild and dangerous animal. Everything I did it to make Alfred happy and didn't think about my own happiness. I was like a submissive priest's wife who would always make sure not to ever do something that would make people question my husband's image and reputation. I couldn't handle it any longer as it had become too much for me. Alfred was always busy to the point that he would spend time with me maybe 2 times a month, if not less. He was always on the road, traveling to meetings, conferences, etc. I would go with him to some of his trips, but the more I went to them with him, I realized that those kinds of events were not really the cup of tea that I would drink. They were too serious, and some of Alfred's associates were intimidating and scary. So I was not comfortable on his trips. The only thing I would enjoy was spending time with him and shopping. I addressed his trip's comfortability to Alfred, and luckily he didn't have a problem with me staying behind while he attended them. What I really loved about my husband is that he was really understanding and somehow a very good listener. He doesn't go all Judge Judy or Dr. Phil on you just because you had confided in him. He would always tell you the truth that you will need to know. He was a straightforward person and never sugarcoated. So one Friday night I had been longing for some action. I was bored in the house. Over the time that I would spend in the house, it somehow became too big for me. So that Friday I had called my friend Emily, female, 28. It had been a very long time since we had last caught up, so I asked if she was available, and to my fortune, she agreed. So I decided to meet up with my friend Emily for a night out on the town. As I left to enjoy my evening, I had no idea of the storm that would be waiting for me when I returned home. Unknown to me, Alfred had been dealing with his own insecurities and fears of losing the spark in our relationship. And he had gone to some business conference that was supposed to take the whole weekend. I had expected him on Sunday late or Monday morning since he had gone to another country. Little did I know that I should have expected the unexpected, the surprise. Alfred had developed a tendency to overanalyze every situation, leading to a heightened sense of jealousy lately. So before he went to the conference, we had an altercation, a very heated one at that. Well, I had addressed my issue of being bored in the house and that I needed to find myself and live like my age mates again. I also told him that I felt like I was in prison because I couldn't do anything that I loved just because I was protecting his image and reputation. I did not sign up to be the house's built-in furniture or his lap rat. After my confession, it was like I had poured petroleum in an already blazing fire. So Emily suggested that we visit the club, since I had complained of being always cooped up in the house with nothing to do except for doing house chores and checking if my hair salon and spa was going well. Over the years, I had opened a hair salon and spa to secure my future just in case Alfred was to change on me. So as Emily and I were in the club, we had a lot of fun that night. I had informed Alfred about my plans, expecting him to understand and support me like he always does when I tell him about our future, or my future goals. We drank like fishes drinking water. I felt like I had been missing out a lot and it was time to get my groove back without tarnishing or disrespecting my husband's image. To my surprise, Alfred reacted negatively. He became upset and expressed his disapproval of my decision to go out without him. I was taken aback by his sudden change in attitude, as they had always encouraged each other to maintain our individual friendships and interests. Till today, I am still asking myself why people change when they get married. I'm saying that because during the dating or getting to know each other phase, one person becomes carefree and stress-free. We explore things together, but when I say I do in front of the priest, God, our families and friends, everything changes. None of what we once did when we were doesn't apply when we get married. How unfair is that? I drank like it was my first and last time drinking. I was so grateful for Emily for suggesting that we go out because it was what I had needed. To be carefree and stress-free, I needed to live my youthful life to the fullest before I reached my 30s. The way I was intoxicated, I couldn't remember some of the things that had happened that night. The only thing that I remembered was drinking and dancing, especially dancing on top of the club's table. It felt so refreshing and great to finally be myself and do things unapologetically. Little did I know that during all the good vibe and carefree night, someone was actually taking a video of me, which was the one that had got me in trouble with Alfred. So, when I arrived home late that night, Alfred was consumed by a mix of anger and insecurity. As I was about to enter the front door, I heard the sound of my husband's voice. He was furious and shouting at me. He couldn't believe that I had disrespected him and his image. On top of that, I stayed out past midnight. He accused me of not caring about him or our marriage and insisted that I pack my bags and leave immediately. He couldn't understand why I would choose to go out without him, and his mind immediately jumped to conclusions. In his vulnerable state, he let his emotions get the best of him and made a rash decision. Alfred thought I was going to wait for him to beg his God Almighty to approve of us to live a little in our marriage. I had already addressed the issue and he decided to burst onto me, then went to whatever conference that he had gone to. He didn't think that he had married someone 8 years younger than him, and I was not about to act like a retired nurse and wait for grandchildren to visit me. I was still young and I needed to live my life. That was what he didn't want to understand. Just because I was married to him didn't mean that I should be a prisoner in this marriage. He also needed to let loose a little so that he won't age early and eventually pass away while he hadn't enjoyed his life. I loved how dedicated he was with his work, and he wanted everything to be perfect in his businesses, but he needed a break, though it wasn't what he wanted. I didn't like the fact that he was too attached with his work to a point that he would forget that he had a life to live. Alfred confronted me about my night out, accusing me of betraying our trust and disrespecting our relationship, his reputation, and the vows I had made in front of our friends and family. I didn't understand what he was talking about at first, as I didn't think that I had disrespected anything in our marriage. I tried explaining to him that I had gone with Emily, and I did nothing wrong that would ruin our marriage's image and vows. As I kept explaining and apologizing, he decided to show me a video of me dancing on top of the table and the part where I was dancing with some random guy. Mind you, I didn't even remember dancing with that guy, and Emily was not even showing on the video. Which made me look like a liar and a deceiver. I tried cracking my head on why Emily didn't appear on the video and who would have taken the video and posted it. Alfred and I argued about it, with me trying to clarify everything to him, but he wouldn't listen to anything that I was saying. In the heat of the moment, he made the impulsive choice to kick me out. At first, I just laughed at him and asked why he was kicking me out. I was taken aback by Alfred's extreme reaction. I pleaded for understanding and forgiveness. I explained that I simply wanted a break from our routine, seeking some individuality and time with friends. However, my words fell on deaf ears as Alfred, fueled by his own insecurities, refused to listen. I thought he was joking and he was making a decision because of anger, so I didn't take him seriously. Up until he went upstairs and came back with the suitcase that had my clothes. That was when I saw that he was actually serious about kicking me out. I was unable to comprehend my innocent intentions. He literally told me that he had thought I was a good lady who held herself in high regard, but he had thought wrong because I had shown him that I was like all the other women who had no morals and self-respect. I felt humiliated, belittled, and disrespected by his words. They were like a sword in my heart, and it was hurting so much. Devastated and confused, I found myself in a state of desperation. I reached out to friends and family, seeking guidance and support. But it became clear to me that our relationship had been strained by a lack of communication and understanding. In the several years of my marriage with Alfred, I had noticed that communication was the only thing that was lacking. We made our decisions without discussing them with each other as a married couple. We didn't know how to express ourselves and our true feelings and desires without shouting at each other because of the disagreements. Over the next few days, my husband and I had time to reflect on our actions and emotions. We both realized that our strong reactions had stemmed from deeper issues within our relationship. I understood that Alfred's reaction was rooted in his own fears of losing me or feeling left out. Alfred, on the other hand, realized that his response had been an overreaction, and that he needed to communicate his concerns more effectively. I had or have my own life and future desires. Alfred has his own also, but we never really discussed everything in a civilized manner like married people. Every time when we would try to address our issues calmly, one of us would find a way to disagree with what the other person was suggesting. Our marriage was too much on keeping my husband's image and reputation. It was like I was the face of our marriage, so he would get respect from his associates. So if I were to do something ungodly and disrespectful, like that club video, his reputation and image would be on the line. Tempers flared and emotions ran high as Alfred and I engaged in a series of heated arguments. The trust that once bound us seemed to crumble, and our relationship teetered on the edge. I came to realize that my attempt to teach Alfred a lesson had backfired, leaving both of us feeling hurt and lost. The way I was so heartbroken, even the blind man would feel that I was going through the most. I mean, I had never imagined that a simple night out with my old friend would lead to this. Tears streamed down my face as I picked my bags and left the house that had been my home for so many years. After all the kicking and screaming that I did, I eventually decided to honor Alfred's decision and moved out. The following morning, I returned home, my parents' house, to a tense and hostile environment. My parents didn't want me to leave my marriage and move back home without fighting for it. I felt like there was nothing to fight for because Alfred had already made his decision, so I had to respect it. I know that I had hurt Alfred by my actions. He felt betrayed and disrespected. He believed that my decision to go out without his consent was a clear indication of her lack of commitment to their marriage. The first week without him felt like a decade without my other half. It was like my heart was ripped off my chest and I was suffocating. I couldn't live without Alfred. I had never thought my desire to explore myself and be myself would actually put me in a situation whereby I would feel lost and unable to even check on my own business. I missed Alfred so much. I had gone back home. My parents were not pleased by agreeing to leave my marital home and come back home. They believed that Alfred and I had a chance to solve every issue that we had. Days and days passed. My life had taken a very huge turn, a very bad turn within a blink of an eye. My life was like a road with deep and dangerous potholes, and I was a car that had no gas. Its goal was to reach the petrol station to fill the petrol, but it got into that deep and dangerous pothole that damaged all the tires of the car. Well, that was me. I was the damaged car. I was depressed and kept asking myself if I was wrong by going outside my marriage to have fun, not with any male friend, but with the person I had thought was a friend, Emily. In the weeks that followed, Alfred and I began attending therapy together, hoping to rebuild the trust and mend the broken bonds. All thanks to Alfred's parents for sitting us down and explaining to us why we needed to fight for our marriage and never let small things take away all the years that we had spent together, and that communication and honesty was the key to successful relationships and marriages. They told us that we should be our own best friends and not depend on people we call friends, especially since we haven't found the person who took a video of me dancing on top of the table in the club. Through open and honest conversations, we started to unravel the underlying issues that had led to our unfortunate situation. After a few weeks of reflection and soul-searching, Alfred and I decided to just have an open and honest conversation. We acknowledged our mistakes, expressed feelings, and listened to each other's perspectives. Through this heartfelt conversation, they were able to rebuild their trust and find a way forward. With time, patience, and a newfound commitment to each other, my husband and I were able to heal and mend our relationship. We even learned the importance of clear communication, trust, and allowing each other the space to grow as individuals while maintaining our love and commitment as a couple. I somehow understood the importance of communication, compromise, and empathizing with my partner's feelings. Realizing the gravity of the situation, I had decided or suggested seeking professional help. I reached out to a couples therapist who specialized in communication and trust building. Through therapy, both my husband, and I were able to express our feelings and fears in a safe and controlled environment. Determined to mend our relationship, I initiated open and honest conversations with Alfred, expressing my deep regret and willingness to work things out. Over time, we slowly rebuilt the trust and understanding that had been shattered. Through therapy and self-reflection, both Alfred and I learned valuable lessons about the importance of compromise, effective communication, and the need for personal growth within a relationship. We actually recognized that change requires effort from both parties and committed to rebuilding a stronger and more resilient bond. As weeks turned into months, Alfred and I worked tirelessly to rebuild our relationship. We learned to communicate our needs and fears openly and honestly, recognizing the importance of trust and understanding. Through therapy, we had discovered the underlying issues that had contributed to our current predicament and made a commitment to address them together. Alfred and I had learned a valuable lesson about the importance of communication, understanding, and compromise in a relationship. We eventually realized that while it is essential to maintain individuality, it is equally important to prioritize the needs and feelings of each partner. From that day forward, we made a promise to always support each other's personal growth and cherish the bond we shared. While our journey was far from easy, my husband and I managed to find our way back to each other, armed with a newfound appreciation for our relationship's complexities and a deeper understanding of each other's needs. I have decided to confide in you, Redditors, so you can advise me. I am stuck in between love and my happiness. I don't know if I did the right thing to fix things with Alfred and compromised my own happiness. Please tell me what you think. Because I love my husband so much, but at the same time, I would sometimes feel like I had let myself down. Like I had failed to fulfill what I wanted and chose to fix my marriage instead of finding my own happiness. Please help.